Hello and welcome to today's daily news analysis. So we'll be covering the news events for 18th of January 2021, and as said before also we'll be focusing on the mains answer rating. So from the news we'll identify the mains based questions and we'll be discussing that as well. And furthermore today we have this one mains question, and I have many issues from which the UPSC prelims based questions can be asked. Okay. Let me just tell you where all these things are there. So a brief overview of today's topics that we are going to cover. So first of all, Punjab polling now deferred. So here we'll be looking at the reason, and that is particularly the birth anniversary of Bhakti saint Ravi Das ji. So we'll be looking at him as a personality that can be asked in the mains. So I have some pointers for you. Plus, from prelims also questions can be asked. Okay, 2 Indians, a Pakistani killed in UAE tanker blast. Now this is a news, this is to do with the Yemen war that is taking place. So here we'll be focusing briefly about what is happening, and we'll be also looking at the map based questions that can be asked. So particularly the map based questions for prelims. India helping the world deal with the pandemic. This was a statement given by Prime Minister Modi at the World Economic Forum, which is commonly asked in the UPSC prelims. So World Economic Forum, and also some literature as to what all reports that a World Economic Forum is releasing. It's an institution that releases various reports and findings. So this again, the reports released by World Economic Forums are commonly asked in UPSC pre. So we'll be covering that. Then I have only one question today, as I said earlier, and this is about the Gati Shakti program. Then these are also important: China-Lithuania relationship and the Silver Line project with reference to the state of Kerala. Then we have the Normandy grouping or Normandy format. So this was in news and we need to know about it, particularly in the context of the fear of Ukraine. Ukraine is a country in Asia. So they have a fear that Russia will annex it. So what role can the Europe play in that context? So Normandy format, which all countries are part of this. What was the context in which the Normandy grouping came into existence? All of this is important for prelims. And yes, briefly the business news. Furthermore, we'll be discussing, famous Kathak dancer passed away sadly. So we'll be looking at the Kathak art form, an important classical dance. So this also will be covered from prelims point of view. Now coming to the Punjab polling. So Election Commission of India agrees to plea for postponement in the view of Guru Ravidas birth anniversary. So we get to know one thing, that the date of elections, particularly general elections to the Lok Sabha and Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, as well as the assembly elections, the elections within the state. So the date, the schedule, etc. is decided by the Election Commission of India, which is a constitutional body. And this was in the context because many political parties, they believed that the worshippers of Guru Ravidas ji, particularly the scheduled caste community, they were planning to move to Varanasi for the celebrations of his birth anniversary, and therefore a significant voter base would have been outside the state of Punjab when the elections are taking place. So keeping this in mind, the elections have been postponed. Okay, now briefly about Guru Ravidas ji. So some key pointers that you need to know for your mains if a question is asked in this context, as well as prelims based important pointers. So Guru Ravidas ji belonged to the cobbler community. So it writes here, he belonged to a community whose profession involved processing dead animals and their skins. So he was from the cobbler community. And his fame increased over the course of time, right? And here are some of the important teachings that Guru Ravidas ji had shared. So he said that everybody is equal in all respects, irrespective of caste, color or belief. Then God created man and not man created God. Emphasis on universal brotherhood. So again, everything, if you look at it, is the point of view of humanism. That is, everybody is equal and we should treat everybody equally. Then one important thing that you need to keep in mind with reference to Guru Ravidas ji was that he belonged to the group of Bhakti saints which was known as the Nirgun Bhakti saints. So Bhakti saints are of two types. So one is the Sagun, that is the God. They believe that the God has certain forms. So Sagun Bhakti saints would believe in for example, Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, right? So who believe that God has certain forms. They have been able to define God in some human context. So that is Sargun Bhakti saint. Mirabai, who was a worshipper of Lord Krishna, right? So she belongs to the Sagun Bhakti saint. Sometimes Sagun, sometimes Sargun. Okay, so Nirgun means which basically says that it is without any attributes or forms. God is without any attributes or form. So that is Nirgun. Right. So this is it, right? And we know that Mirabai was a disciple of Guru Ravidas ji, and Mirabai, keep in mind, she was a Sargun Bhakti saint. And the teachings of Guru Ravidas ji have been incorporated in Guru Granth Sahib also, the key text, the holy book of Sikhism. Now coming to the news with reference to the UAE tanker blast. So basically there are two incidents. One is that an oil tanker has exploded, was attacked, and the other incident is that a ship along the Red Sea region, which was flagged towards the Dubai region, Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is the capital of the UAE. So that ship has been seized. It has been captured by Yemen-based terrorist or rebel group known as the Houthis. So here also it is written the Houthi militia believed to be supported by Iran. Now why have they captured a ship from the UAE? Because UAE is part of the countries that represent the Arab bloc, and Houthi is being represented by the Iran. Iran is supporting the Houthis. So basically there is a war going on between the Arab bloc and the Yemen, and particularly it is the Saudi Arabia which is conducting airstrikes and military operation against the Yemen-based rebel group known as the Houthis. So now they got a chance, and they don't have that kind of a strength, so they are organizing terror acts against the assets of the Arab countries. So now they have attacked a ship, they have captured a ship. So here you can see a photo where the Houthi-based militia is capturing a ship. So in this again some Indian and Pakistanis are there, and furthermore there was an incident where Indians and Pakistanis were killed, right? Okay, so this was about Yemen. We don't expect a Yemen-based a question to be asked from that perspective, but yes, we do need to focus from the prelims point of view as to how a question can be asked. So this region was in the news, Yemen. It will be in the news also. So with reference to Yemen, you need to know that which are the countries that are neighboring it, and you need to know about this region, that is the Gulf of Aden, the Red Sea and the nearby area. So this you have to practice from the atlas as well. So have a look at the atlas, but yes, I have shared with you the map as well. Okay, India helping the world deal with the pandemic. So this was a statement that was given at the World Economic Forum's Davos agenda. So basically, World Economic Forum, which has got nothing to do with the United Nations, nor is it a government body. Instead, the World Economic Forum is a not-for-profit organization, right? So it is a non-governmental organization. This you have to keep in mind. It has nothing to do with UN or any international, any multilateral or intergovernmental organization. It is purely a private initiative, not-for-profit organization. So this was asked actually in the prelims. So World Economic Forum every year in Switzerland, they organize a summit. So this place is known as the Davos, and otherwise the World Economic Forum is located in Geneva, right? I hope you can keep this in mind. So Geneva is the place where it is headquartered, and every year they organize their summit in a place known as Davos, which is located in the Alps region. This is the Alps mountain, and this is basically Davos. Okay, right? So this we need to know, and this is recognized by the Swiss authorities as the International Institution for Public-Private Cooperation. So it is the World Economic Forum where you will find the government, the heads of the states will go there, right? US President, Indian Prime Minister. So such people are there, so key leaders of the world. They set out their agenda for the country, for the economy. So all those things are stated at this particular summit. So it's very, very important. So here Prime Minister Modi said that they are helping the world deal with the pandemic. So it is saying that India is a country which is a great producer of the pharma sector, of pharmaceuticals. And we know this, India has been developing this vaccines at a very, very massive scale. And it also exported the vaccines to the world countries under its vaccine diplomacy initiative, Vaccine Mitra initiative, right? So this you can mention. And furthermore, he said that the world should focus on this approach known as One Earth, One Health. This line is very, very important, often referred to in the world context also and the Indian context also when we're looking at the health sector schemes. I'll explain the meaning. Imagine this COVID virus, this COVID thing that has taken place. So one thing about the COVID is that, no country of this world is safe. Let's say US gets itself vaccinated also completely, they get it vaccinated, but the virus is there in the other part of the country, other part of the world, be it Africa, be it India. And the the virus then comes back to that country, even though they have this immunity by the means of vaccination, but then there is a mutation that takes place like the Omicron, and it again reinfects the people. So we need to have an integrated approach where we focus on vaccinating the entire earth, not just the few privileged people, but the entire earth has to be vaccinated, right? So this is one way of looking at it. So there should be inclusivity in providing access to good healthcare. You can put it this way also, right? So that aspect, and access to medicines, particularly the US and the developed countries have very advanced, they have a lot of expenditure on the R&D, research and development, and they have medicines which, especially for the rare diseases and like cancer, etc., which India does not have, and it is very, very expensive. So we need to have this One Earth approach in that context. And One Health. One Health means that we should not just look at the human health, but we should look at the health of all the species. We should have an integrated approach to healthcare where we are not just focusing on the healthcare of the human being. For example, the COVID came from the bat. It is believed that it came from the bat. So we need to look at the diseases that are coming from the animals into the humans or from any other place, right? So this is basically the One Earth, One Health slogan. Okay, these are the important reports that the World Economic Forum releases, and this you need to know, right? So Global Competitiveness Report was asked in 2019. Global Gender Gap Report has also been asked. In fact, this is important because, if you are answering a question on gender inclusivity or participation of women in the workforce, so here you can quote the findings of the Global Gender Gap Report, India's ranking vis-a-vis the other countries, and this will help you fetch more marks when you're writing your answer. Okay, Supreme Court voices concern for children hit by the third wave. Right. So basically, COVID, the coronavirus that is taking place, it is not just about the healthcare, that is the people are getting unwell, but it has a socio-economic dimension as well. How? Because of the coronavirus, lockdown is taking place. Lockdown takes place, so economic activity is not taking place. So this is leading to impoverishment. This is leading to lockdowns of the schools. So the children who are not going to the school, but rather they are going onto the streets and begging. right, that is taking place, or they are engaging in child labor rather than using this period to learn because the schools are not functioning. And furthermore, we will see, we will also see, it is unfortunate that we will see that midday meal scheme was there, so nutrition was also being provided, so malnourishment will increase, access to healthcare, that will decrease, right? So these are certain other problems. So we can say that COVID is not just a health concern, health emergency, but it is also a socio-economic emergency. And the key thing to look over here is, we need to see, you are going to be civil servants, you want to go into the policy making side, policy implementation. So you need to be able to answer as to what steps can be taken to address this problem. I think you do this as a homework. I have the points, but try to think for yourself as to what measures can be taken given the realities of the lockdown and the strain on the healthcare. Still, what steps can be taken to ensure that the children are not severely affected, or what corrective measures can be taken. Next is about the Gati Shakti. You can have a look at the question first. Right? What do you understand by the PM Gati Shakti? How will it help resolve the challenges faced by the infrastructure sector? Right. So let me just tell you what happened in the news and then we'll come to it. So there is a minister for road and transport, so Mr. Gadkari. So for the implementation of the Gati Shakti scheme, he is meeting the leaders from the south. Okay, so they have given their own feedback to the minister or to the center as to what steps need to be incorporated. Now let me tell you what is the Gati Shakti scheme. Just a brief idea about this. So see, the Gati Shakti is, really speaking, nothing really new. Only thing is that Gati Shakti is a proposal to have better coordination with the various infrastructure projects that are being implemented at the present moment. Now imagine, we have rail ministry which is focusing on the construction of the railways. We have this north-south corridor, diamond quadrilateral, right? So many such initiatives are there. So we have for the railways, we have the Ministry of Shipping for the shipping work as well as for the inland waterways. So we have railways, we have the roadways, we have the shipping. But the problem arises that these initiatives that are going on, the government is spending a lot of money on this, but the problem is that these are not well integrated. Railways should be well integrated with the shipping, and maybe rails and shipping should be well connected with the roadways. So we should not just focus on complete rail connectivity or just complete focus on the roadways. We should try to complement each other. And because of this lack of coordination, lot of additional resources are basically wasted. There are complications because of the land acquisition. For any of these initiatives, land is required to be taken up. Then such initiatives are all interstate, and cooperation and coordination with the states are required. Many times, obviously, these projects are very, very expensive. So such projects require a lot of money, and many a times the money is stuck up because at some level or the other the support wasn't there. For instance, let's say National Highway Authority of India sanctions funds for roadways, for a new highway has to be constructed, and for that highway they have sanctioned some money. So center has sanctioned money, but the state is unable to acquire land, or state is not on the same plane as the center. And even if the state is doing well, maybe at the district level there is a problem, or at the private sector level there is a problem, because these days the contracts are going to the private sector who has to construct. So you can see there are many agencies that are there, and there is a requirement to have better coordination over here, which is lacking. And this leads to wastage of resources, wastage of money, right? Duplication. So this needs to be arrested. And for this purpose, the PM Gati Shakti program was initiated. So Gati Shakti is basically where all the infrastructure projects, sometime back, all these infrastructure projects or the plans came under a scheme known as National Infrastructure Pipeline. So all these projects, rail, road, highways, rural infra, whatever, all of this are now under the National Infrastructure Pipeline. So all of this will be subsumed, or this will become part of a larger scheme known as PM Gati Shakti plan. Right? So all these things will be integrated or become part of a single umbrella plan known as the PM Gati Shakti plan. And this will have a digital platform, which is, let me write this, digital platform which will be integrated with the GIS, Geographical Information System, so that there is better coordination, better time to time, time wise, there is timely updates as to what is happening, where is the work stopping, what are the regulatory hurdles being faced, what corrective measures can be taken. So all those updates will be available in a timely fashion. So this will help in better planning as well as implementation of the projects. And with better integration, it will help bring better coordination. It will help reduce the logistical cost. In fact, we have high logistic costs. So the National Logistics Policy, right? The National Logistic Policy says that we have to reduce the logistic cost, which is around 13% of a GDP, should come down to 8 to 10% of the GDP. So this has to be reduced. So this will be done if we can integrate our resources, if our movement of logistics from rail to road or rail to shipping is seamless, then the logistic cost will automatically come down, right? Furthermore, I think one more problem that we have is that around 3.5 lakh crore rupees are stuck in infrastructure projects. Our money is already stuck. So having better planning and coordination can ease up this finances and reduce the fiscal pressure on the government. Right. So this is about the Gati Shakti program. So here we have the definition of the Gati Shakti, where it says the PM Gati Shakti is a digital platform for integrated planning and implementation of infrastructure connectivity projects across the country. Right. So, you don't have to refer also, it's directly mentioned in the news itself. Okay. So it is there. You can write down the Gati Shakti. Then you can write down some challenges that we face in the contemporary times. You can list down some measures that are already being taken for development of infrastructure. You can list down some rail projects, roadways projects, and explain what are the issues, and explain how Gati Shakti can address this lacuna or address this problem. Right. So here we have the southern leaders who have basically said that we need better connectivity. So they have demanded the requirement for airports. So no airport facility for Karaikal, in fact for Puducherry. Then likewise for Andhra Pradesh also, the state of Telangana also. So they have said that the infrastructure of the Krishnapatnam port has to be improved. So all of these demands have been expressed by the southern leaders. Right. Now coming to the red line, this is basically the editorial. So this is with reference to China's response to Lithuania. Let me explain in very simple terms. So this is Europe, and this is a small country in that, Lithuania, right? Okay, so this is a small country which is incidentally also a EU country. That is, it is part of a group amongst it's part of a grouping known as European Union, which is kind of a free trade arrangement. Okay, so EU plus it is part of the NATO as well. It is a NATO country too. Now what happened is that Lithuania decided, there is this new election that took place, a very pro-democratic government came into existence in Lithuania, and they decided to have diplomatic representation of Taiwan. So Taiwanese representative office was initiated, right? So quite natural, all countries do that. So this did not go well with the Chinese, who believe that Taiwan is part of China. So they have this policy of one country policy, which most countries really accepted. Even India, they do not have a separate office. They do have separate office for Taiwan, but it is not named as such. So it is, it is named differently. But they have crossed that red line or something that is very sensitive to the Chinese. So Chinese believe that Taiwan is an integral part of the mainland China, and this is an historical blunder. When you study the world history, you will study this. So it is an historical blunder, and eventually China by force or by diplomacy will take this back. So this is a long-term goal of China or the Chinese government. In fact, there is a lot of military tension that is going on in the recent times. Okay, so we are here now, right? This is the problem that so the Chinese have basically decided that this is not acceptable. The Lithuania government forming the Taiwanese representative officer, this is not acceptable, and therefore they have said that we will impose sanctions, we will impose trade sanctions, we will impose we will use coercive means, so that Lithuania changes its position and set an example that other countries do not engage in such behavior. So that is the idea, and they are doing this in a smaller country and setting an example rather than having a confrontationist approach with the entire European Union or with a bigger country like US or India. That they are not doing, but with a smaller country. And they are basically pointing out that if you do this, action will be taken against you as well. It is possible. So don't offend us. And we are an economic superpower. We are China. So China is, it's very, very powerful at this moment. So don't offend us. Otherwise, we will use coercive techniques and actions will be taken against that country. Right. So this is it. Now, the European Union and China is also looking at having an FTA, free trade arrangement. And if this deal goes bad, then this will be worth $828 billion, which they cannot afford. Right. So this is it actually with reference to the Lithuania. Now, from the Indian context, India is again considering as to India's relationship with Taiwan is getting bad, with reference to China is getting bad. Furthermore, India is often thinking if it needs to engage better with the Taiwanese. So India has some sort of a template as to what will happen if it engages more closely with Taiwan. It will offend China, and maybe we have this land border problem at the Ladakh region and at the northeast. So this will complicate the India-China relationship, which it doesn't want to do. Right. Here was an interesting phrase: kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. So Lithuania is referred to as the chicken over here to scare the monkeys. Monkeys are bigger, monkeys are more powerful. So, it was interesting. Okay, from the prelims point of view, you need to know this is very important. So from the map based aspect, so where is this Taiwan Strait, right? It is located. Where is the East China Sea? Where is the South China Sea? So you need to have this reference when you're studying for your prelims. And Lithuania is located along the Baltic Sea. In fact, if you see over here, this is the Baltic Sea, and if you see this region has a lot of countries, and these countries for one reason or the other are there in the news. So you need to know the specific locations of these countries over here. So this is again your homework. So refer your atlas and locate these countries. Okay, the ambitious Silver Line project deserves deeper analysis to decongest traffic, and state needs an integrated approach. So this is given by P. Ashok, a civil servant. So let me briefly tell you what is the Silver Line project. And again, in prelims a question can be asked as the Silver Line project, which was there in the news, is associated with which of the following. So like that, 4 options are there. So in this manner, again, a question can be asked. Okay, now briefly about the Silver Line project. Yeah. So see, this is the state of Kerala. So the Silver Line project is basically an initiative that seeks to have rail connectivity, and not the normal rail, a high speed rail or semi high speed rail that connects the northern end of Kerala to the southern end of Kerala or southern end of the state. So all the important, you can see all the important cities of Kerala are being covered over here. Right, so this is the main idea over here, and this is the Silver Line project. Okay, now with reference to the Silver Line project, if you can look at it this way, it is about rail connectivity, and there is a concern being expressed about the Silver Line project that this is an ecologically sensitive zone. This is the place where there is the Western Ghats, and lot of construction activity will take place, so pollution will take place, right? It may not be environment friendly. So there are certain concerns because of which there is a debate, and therefore he is expressing his views, Mr. Ashok. Now Mr. Ashok is saying that, and please hear it out it's very important, because here again we are looking at from the point of view of integrated multimodal transport. That is having a good mix of rail, road, and anything, not just focusing on the road-based transportation, which is the present form of travel for most of us Indians. Right? So this is important in that context. So he says that, in Kerala's context, there is a problem that there is too much emphasis on the roadways or the highways for people to travel from one place to another. So it is better if there is rail connectivity. So that will reduce the pressure on the roads, and given the urbanization that is taking place, he says that about 92% of Kerala, which is amazing actually, so 92% of the state is urbanized, and more and more of apartments and high rises are being created. So as a result of this, commutation from one place to another is going to be difficult, because more and more cars are going to be taken into account. So the road infrastructure or the parking facilities, that will get strained, and therefore we need to reduce the emphasis on the road based communication or the commutation from one place to another in favor of rail based traveling. So that is what he is basically pitching over here. Right, so he's saying, he's basically making a case as to why rail-based transportation has to be preferred instead of roadways, and furthermore, road-based is also accident-prone. So we have a fact about 40,000 accidents per annum and 4,000 casualties are taking place just around this area. Right, so this is it. And furthermore, I think one more thing you can look at it is, if you can just forget the state of Kerala also, if you just look at a particular city like Delhi or whichever place that you live in, we need to have integrated approach to transportation. It should not be just road based. So there are certain problems. There is the problem of urban pollution because of the vehicular traffic. There is a problem of congestion, right? So in that context, we need to focus on multimodal means of transportation. So rail-based transit, like the metros are there in Delhi, and this should be connected with, there should be last mile connectivity too. So after reaching a particular station, you should have a way as to how you can reach to your house or office, wherever you want to go. Such thing also requires planned urbanization. Right? So planned urbanization has to be emphasized upon as well. And such a thing will be, you are reducing the focus on vehicles, so vehicular pollution is taking place. So this will also be environment friendly in the long run, and particularly with the solar electricity that is coming up, right? Electricity cost is going to come down in the near future. So it is again going to be environment friendly, because you're not using the thermal power but renewable power for commutation. So these are the things that needs to be looked into. In fact, the National Urban Transportation Policy It also said that we should focus on we should be focusing upon moving people instead of moving vehicles. So these are the perspectives that I wanted to share about the Silver Line. Just the basic information is adequate. Okay, now coming on to some national news. So vaccination for 12 to 14 age group will be available very soon from March. So this has been said by the chief of the National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization. Then some news about this Molnupiravir medicine, right? Not important. Yes, this is important. Kathak legend painted a divine romance on stage. So the Mastero has passed away. So here we'll be looking at the Kathak art form. Now here you can see two things have been highlighted. So Kathak, he believed, Pandit Birju Maharaj, he believed that Kathak was not limited to parans. It was not limited to parans and chakkars. So this is one thing. And other thing is, he believed that the exponents of the Kathak dance, not Kathakali, Kathak dance are Kathakars or storytellers. So this is important for prelims. Okay, right? So I'll explain this. So a question can be asked with reference to the art form of Kathak, and it can say that parans and chakkars are the key components of this art form. 2-3 features are mentioned. So in that, parans and chakkars can be mentioned. So chakkars is basically where the dancer rotates on an axis, right? And parans is a art form. It's basically a posture with reference to the Kathak. You can actually watch it on the YouTube and that will give a greater clarity. And Kathakar is basically story. In fact, Katha, story. So the Kathak dancer is actually telling a story. Okay. Now there is a question: which of the following dance is related to Kerala? So it is the Kathakali art form. Now there are further other art forms also. So again, you also notice I made a mistake while speaking. I said Kathakali, right? So Kathak and Kathakali are two different art forms. So Kathakali is with reference to the state of Kerala, and this is Kathakali. So where the person's face is painted, you can see the elaborate costume that is there, and this is Kathak. And the key element of Kathak, the most important aspect of Kathak is the jugalbandi between the dancer, the dancer who's wearing ghungru, and the tabla player. So as the tabla player plays, the Kathak dancer during the form of one's dance taps her feet and makes a noise with the ghungru. So this is a key component. And again, you have other aspects also with reference to Kathak, that is the dancer is a Kathakar, and the posture of parans and chakkars are key elements of Kathak dance form. Okay, so Kathakali is with Kerala. Kathak is the main regions is basically the Uttar Pradesh. So Varanasi, Jaipur, Banaras, these are the primary areas. And again, with reference to Kathak, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, a very, very important prominent figure with reference to the revolt of 1857. So he is there, right? He played an important role in defining the Kathak art form and reforming it. Then we have Bharatnatyam, which is with reference to the state of Tamil Nadu. And this is not Bharatnatyam, this is Kathakali, because people tend to get confused between Bharatnatyam and Kathakali. So this is Kathakali, and Bharatnatyam is a very simple costume. Then there is Kuchipudi. Then there is also Mohiniyattam, which basically means a beautiful dancer or a beautiful woman, where the costume is white in color. Kuchipudi is in Andhra Pradesh, Mohiniyattam is in Orissa. Germany vows to do all to guarantee Ukraine's security. Basically, what happened was this. Let's come back to 2013 and 14. So Russia, they have this long-standing problem, and this dates much prior, so around 1856, 1857, where the Crimean War had taken place. So Russia, does not have access to ports, all-weather ports. So Russia, if you see, it's basically in a very frigid zone. It is very cold. It doesn't get, it has frozen ports actually. It doesn't have all through the year connectivity. So it wants some sort of connectivity. So Black Sea is a good area. This is Black Sea, this is Mediterranean. So this is a long-standing, Russia wanted some access to the Black Sea or the Mediterranean region. So Russia in the year 2013-14, it invaded into Ukraine and acquired Crimea, from where it got the port, right? It got a all-weather port over here. And then it went back. There were sanctions on there were sanctions on Russia eventually. Okay. Now, given suddenly the Russia had annexed into Ukraine and acquired part of its territory. Over the years, there has been tension that Russia is focusing on military buildup and aims at getting back some territories of Ukraine. So Ukraine was formerly part of the USSR. And if you look at it this way, I think if we go back here, look at the map over here. So if it gets back Ukraine, if it annexes into Ukraine, then in that case, European nations, so the Europe will be endangered by Russia as well. So they are offering some sort of support to Ukraine in the present time. And for that purpose, there is some meeting known as Normandy format. So Normandy is a place in France, right? So here there is a grouping known as Normandy format, which is basically looking at Russia's annexation into Ukraine and what measures can be taken. So with reference to the Normandy format, which is basically a grouping of Germany, France, Russia and Ukraine. So these members are part of the Normandy format. This you have to keep in mind. Now coming briefly to the business section. So first we have this China's economy, which grows at 8.1%. That means if the Chinese economy is growing, China is the key exporter to the world. So that means the world demand is increasing. So this is a positive outlook of the overall world economy, and this should also mean good for the Indian economy as well. Okay, now briefly, if you look at the China economy aspect, there are some things to consider, right? So one thing is that export. In general, China's economic growth is export driven. So when the export is increasing, that means the world demand is increasing too. China is the key exporter of many things. We all know about this, right? So the world demand is increasing, and that should also positively reflect upon the Indian economy. Now imagine a situation where China's consumption is coming down, or the world consumption is coming down. Let's say we are looking at the steel sector. China is one of the greatest producers of the steel. So if China has surplus production and it is not able to sell it, let me put it this way. Then what China will do is, to support its own industry, it will start dumping, or it will start selling steel at a very, very low market price to other countries. So this puts pressure on the domestic industries of the countries in which China is dumping its products. So this particularly happens with Indian steel sector, particularly Tata Steel and other companies. Right, so these are the things that we need to keep in mind. And further, China is relaxing, its population is decreasing, and therefore they are coming up with the 3-child policy. Furthermore, with reference to the Omicron, it's the RBI and the saying that it is not like a wave, it is like a flash flood, something that suddenly comes and goes also. So it says that it is not going to have that kind of effect which the first wave or the second wave had. So the prospects of the economy will be much better. It will not affect the consumption. It will not affect the job growth as such. So the prospects of the economy are much better than what was anticipated for the third wave. SEBI, the regulator for the stock market, it moves alternate dispute resolution tool. Right. So it's basically a regulator. So and people invest in stock market. People invest in stock market, right? So to ensure that fair practice takes place, sometimes the interest of the consumers or the interest of the investors are undermined. There are certain problems and people complain. So rather than having a proper legal proceedings and the legal system, it wants to have a more friendly environment where the disputes can be resolved. So it is looking at the alternate dispute resolution tool to solve the problems. Last, we have uncertainty delays job recovery, right? You do not know where the COVID is, what will be the economic outlook, and therefore the companies also do not want to invest in capacity building. So if the capacity building is not increasing, that means jobs will also not increase. So it will affect the jobs recovery as well. So this is a statement that is given by the International Labour Organization. A key thing to be noted over here that ILO is it's basically a specialized agency of the United Nations. You have to keep this in mind, based out in Geneva. And this it said in its reports known as World Employment and Social Outlook Report. Fine. So we had the World Economic Forum and now we have the International Labour Organization. So on the same lines, a question can be asked. Right then, so this is it from my side. So this concludes the daily news analysis for 18th of January 2021. Bye bye, take care and all the best.